There we go. All right. Well, welcome to another Workshop Wednesday. I am Jen Slattery with the League of Cities and Towns, and today we are happy to host our colleague Nicole McKenzie from the US Census Bureau, who is going to tell us all about best cases to use data in your community and how you can use it to your advantage. And it sounds like there's a lot of cool things. We were just talking a lot of cool ways to use it. So I'm just going to toss it over to Nicole. Thanks for being here, Nicole.
Well, thanks, Jen. Thanks for hosting us here today. Just to let everyone know, this I have a presentation, but then we'll get into some live demos. If you have questions, feel free to, if you want to put them in the chat, or I think Jen is going to keep an eye on that. I can't see the chat when I'm presenting, so feel free to stop me. I don't mind if you have something that is relevant to what we're talking about at the moment. Otherwise, we can save some times for questions and answers at the end. So I'm Nicole McKenzie. I'm actually in New Hampshire. I serve New Hampshire, Maine, Massachusetts, Vermont, and Rhode Island. So those are my areas. There are a team of us, approximately 25 of us nationwide. These are some of the people I work with who cover other states across the US. What my job is to do, and I love it, is providing training for data users. So that can be one person, it can be at a conference for 200, it can be a workshop such as today, where it's an association or league that's bringing people together. So one of the things that I will say today is going to be, we have an hour, so I'm going to go through things rather quickly. There's a lot of data that we have. You know, Please feel free to always reach out. I will have my contact information on the last slide. You will be getting this presentation. I'll share it with Jen, who can then share it out with you all. I have a lot of valuable links in the presentation. I have some Rhode Island specific links that I put in. So it will be a helpful tool for you after. But I can't tell you how many times I get people who saw this presentation and 2 months later, they're doing a project for their town and they forgot something and they reach out. And we'll set a date, pull up a screen, go into their town and really dissect it or get the data that they're looking for. So never hesitate to reach out. A little bit of the format today, short presentation talking about the Census Bureau in general. I'll touch on a couple of our popular surveys. I'll talk about census geographies because you can get our data at various geographical levels. I'll tell you a little bit about accessing the data. And then what I like to consider is the fun part. We'll actually I'll do a live demo on 3 of our data access tools that I would say I probably use the most. Quick Facts, data.census.gov, and narrative profiles. They're really good for municipalities to get specific facts and also compare maybe their municipality to others in the region. So a little bit about the Census Bureau. We are the federal government's largest statistical agency. We're conducting surveys of households and businesses across the nation all of the time. So many times I will get a comment that the 2020 census is over. Well, why are you still working? So I tell them that we have annual surveys, numerous, dozens and dozens and dozens of different surveys that we do. These surveys can help support the allocation of federal funds. That's one of the primary purposes of our surveys, especially our decennial census that we do every 10 years. It helps apportionment of congressional representatives. It helps communities, businesses, schools make data-informed decisions through community analysis. It helps with grant writing, planning. So you name it. As you know, I'm talking to you all. You know the importance of data and how it is in community planning. One of the things that I like to share is that our surveys, we do our surveys for the Census Bureau to provide data for you, but we also contract with other departments of government to conduct surveys. So, for instance, the American Housing Survey, we contract HUD contracts with us to work on that survey, and then that data goes to HUD, and then they put it into their tools and share it. Another one that's really stands out, most people are aware of the US Bureau of Labor Statistics, the monthly unemployment rate. That's actually Census Bureau collecting that data, providing it to the US Bureau of Labor Statistics, who then reports it out. So we're doing that for other governmental organizations. And I do like to say that, it's a reliable source. Other governmental organizations or departments use us. So especially if you're in grant writing or anything else that you may be doing for the town, and you're, say, writing a grant to HUD for a housing, they're using our data as well. So it helps with the data and its purpose and its lost for the words for the consistency of it and all of that. So the decennial census, this is the one that is most popular because we are out during a decennial census, which is any year ending in zero, and we're out all over counting every household in the population in the nation. So it's when most people are aware, because it is a highly visible event. We're actually planning now for the 2030 census. I put a link in this table right here. If you're interested in the 2030 census and what's happening, the test sites, kind of what we're looking at, you can also get involved with feedback. You can go to that link and get more information because that will be here before we know it. This decennial census is the official count of the population, and it is mandated by the Constitution. We've been doing it since 1790 when George Washington was the president. So it has quite a lot of, it's changed a bit over the years. It started with a long form that had a lot of questions. It's now down to roughly 10 questions, and you can do it on an iPhone, which was the first time you could actually enumerate with an iPhone or online in 2020, which was very helpful since we were in the middle of a pandemic when we were doing the count. So that's the decennial. And then the next survey, the American Community Survey, this is our largest survey, and this actually is the old long form of the decennial. We sample size about 3.5 million addresses annually. We're out there all the time collecting this information. And then we release the data in 1-year estimates and 5-year estimates. So it also collects data from the national level all the way down to a block group level. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that when I get into the geographies. But there's approximately 72 questions on this, and it really covers social, demographic, housing, and economic characteristics. So there's a link here too, and it will tell you all about the American Community Survey. When I mentioned it is released in 1-year and 5-year estimates, this is important as you're pulling data in our system. For geographies over 65,000, you can get the 1-year estimates. Right now, the 2024 1-year estimates are out, as are the 2024 5-year estimates. For smaller geographies, so I'm in New England. I serve New England. There's a lot of small communities where they're looking at the 5-year estimates. So because their population of their municipality is below 65,000. So in Rhode Island, you have a few cities that you could actually look at the 1-year estimates for some, and you may want to look at the 5-year estimates as well and kind of see the difference in those. One of the things that I like to say about the 5-year estimates is that you have more sample, like you have 5 years of sampling, so you have more data in there, but it does go back over the past 5 years. So depends on the use of your data and if you have the ability to get both estimates or not. The type of data that you can get from the American Community Survey is shown here. I have a table. It's set up. There are kind of 4 different characteristic buckets of data. We have the social characteristics, economic, housing, and demographic. You can see at the bottom here, I have this table DPO2, DPO3, DPO4, and DPO5. So these tables, they're the data profile tables for the American Community Survey. When I go into data.census.gov, I'm going to pull up those 4 tables and we're going to really examine those. Data.census.gov, kind of our golden tool, has thousands and thousands of data tables. So you can get more specific, but these four tables provide quite a bit of information, as you can see, the type that you can access from them. My colleague calls them the Walmart of tables. So, you can go into DPO2 and you can get all of this data in one data table for your community. And then you can dig deeper. So if, for instance, if you're looking at language spoken at home, you can get that type of data in this data profile tool. But then if you want to go deeper into language, the types of languages, ancestry, all of that, there are other tables where we can dig further to pull up the data that you're specifically looking for. This is our geographical hierarchy of data. So you can see in the middle, we call this our geographical spine. You can get data at the national level all the way down to census blocks. So census blocks, the decennial census is the only, because it's not a survey, it's actually a count. You can get data from a decennial at the block level, which is the smallest geographical level you can pull data at. We then go up to the block groups. You can get American Community Survey data, those 4 buckets of characteristics I talked about. You can get that at the block group level for the American Community Survey. You can also get it at the census tract level. I always recommend, if say you're in Providence and you want to dissect the city, and I'll do this in an example, I recommend going to the census tract level as opposed to the block group level when you're looking at analyzing different areas of a city or a town, mainly because the sample size is larger, so your margin of error seems to be less than if you were at the block group level. And we do provide the margin of error, so you would know what that is. We also have county subdivisions, and I circled this because in New England, when I want to look at say all of the cities and towns in Rhode Island, you could say that we're looking for the geographical level of a place, or a county subdivision, because these two represent your cities and towns. I always start at the county subdivision, because what happens if you want to map your data, if you have listed place, it will give you a list of every city and town in Rhode Island. But if you want to map the data, the boundaries, it doesn't show the boundaries. So just recommended as you're looking for data, and you want to look at the cities and towns, go to county subdivision. This is a sample of, not only can you get data tables and then download to Excel to analyze, you can also get a visual representation of data for your community at the different geographical levels. So here's, I just went in and put in the data.census.gov tool, under 5-year-old population. So this is very important if you're planning for your schools, what you have for student population coming up at the under 5-year-old level. So when I did that, it showed you can map it for the data profile tables. You can actually get percent, or you can get number. I use number, and of course Providence County came up, with the highest number of. I don't know how that pops out of here, but sorry, I just popped that down. Didn't mean to. Oh, wait a minute. I'm gonna go back. I was just trying to get this out of here. I don't know. There it goes. Okay. Sorry about that. So if you're mapping the data, it shows Providence had the highest number of under 5-year-old population. And then if you get it down to the city and town level, again, it's showing Providence city has the highest number, which makes sense. When you do a percent, the numbers change. But then if you want to dissect Providence even further to say, what areas of the city have more children, or a higher number of children in the households. So this is by census tract. So it basically breaks out Providence City into census tract areas. So you can see it's this census tract over here. And I can demonstrate this when I go into the tool. One of the things that I work with sometimes a lot, like veterans organizations, municipalities, if they're doing any kind of outreach, they find it very helpful to be able to break a city or a state or a county down into census tracts to get an idea of where they should send their outreach people. Um, so that is very helpful to be able to dissect down to that small level geography to kind of look at your community. So we have all this data. We actually have over 50 different data access tools. So over 50, that is a lot. I did put a link here and it will bring you to all of these data tools. I can tell you from my experience, a lot of times my job is training, but it's also answering questions, data inquiry questions. So someone may reach out, they're looking for a certain um, type of data and they can't find it, and I help them find it. I would say 85% at minimum, probably closer to 90% of the time or more. I go into this one tool, data.census.gov, and I can find what they're looking for in a table that's completely downloadable. We also have a narrative profiles table. This is really helpful for grant writing, or if you're maybe doing a newsletter or you have a website on your town and you want to um, provide some data in kind of a narrative form. That is a good tool, and I'll show you that. And then we have the quick facts tool as well. But again, there's over 50 different data tools. We have a census business builder that's really good if you have businesses. Maybe you want to attract businesses to your community. It helps them analyze not only potential workforce, it helps them look at competition. So what other businesses with that NAICS code falls within that county that they're looking, what consumer spending is for that type of goods or product. It gives you that information. So that's really good if, for attracting businesses. We have on the map. If this is a great tool for municipalities as well. This really looks at where people live and where people work, and kind of the how many people live. Say we'll take Newport for example. This you could map it where it shows, okay, this number of people live in Newport, this number of people work in Newport. But then it will also show you how many people come into Newport from outside of the community on a daily basis to work. And it will show you how many people in Newport that live there go outside to a community to work. And it will tell you the direction they go. It will tell you how many miles on average they drive. And it will tell you the top cities or towns that they commute from or to for Newport. So it's very helpful for maybe planning roads and just getting an idea of that flow of workforce in and out of your city. We also have on the map for emergency management, which any national or natural disaster that happens, you can go on and you can see the census tracts that are impacted by the disaster, and it will show you demographics of who lives in those census tracts. So, for instance, if there's a hurricane and there are a lot of elderly people in the census tracts in that area, it helps responders know that that's the population that they're going in to rescue. So quick facts, the tools that I'm demoing, we got quick facts here. Where does the data come from quick facts? It comes from our population estimates program, comes from that American Community Survey. And here's a few lists of some of the other areas where the data comes from. We do conduct an economic census every 5 years, so the data from that is in the tool. Survey of business owners, building permits. So we actually work with, I believe, municipalities and get building permit data. So we have a whole section of our website on that. So if you're looking at different communities, where there are more building permits as opposed to other communities, shows you for that housing development. And I'm thinking Rhode Island's probably the same as all of New England. We seem to have not enough houses, so that is pretty helpful looking at some of the data we have there. Quick facts also, what it does. I think there's only two, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, two municipalities in Rhode Island that are under 5,000 in population when I looked. So what that means, those two communities wouldn't be able to use quick facts because it only provides statistics for populations of 5,000 or more for cities and towns. So I think one was an island, and I'm not sure what the other one was. But so for most of the municipalities in Rhode Island, you could use Quick Facts, and what it does, you can compare up to 5 different geographies. You could compare. So I actually have a link here that's going to take us to all the counties in Rhode Island. So I'm gonna just click on that to show you this chart here of what I put in and show you how to change some of the geographies. But it's a great way to quickly pull data and compare without a heavy load of getting into our data.census.gov tool, which I actually love the most. But if you're looking for something quick, Quick Facts is the way to go. I also have a link here. So when you get this presentation, you will get, this will take you right to Quick Facts to the home page. I'm just going to go into the one that I put together for Rhode Island counties and click on it. We'll see how the transition worked great. All right. Hopefully everyone can see that. This is the landing page for Quick Facts with pre-populated counties in Rhode Island. So one of the things to put additional data in, we have all the counties in Rhode Island, and the United States is here. If you want, you can take the United States data out. So I'm just going to get rid of that. And you could add in a city or a town. So I'm going to pick on Newport again. And we have, see, Newport City, Rhode Island. And you can see it put Newport City, Rhode Island here. So now you have the 5 counties in Rhode Island plus Newport City and the type of information. So it's that easy. You can change your geographies quite easily that way. You could also, if you want to select a fact that you want to come to the top of the table, you can pull this little arrow and you could go down. Maybe you want to see persons under 5%. So that's different than the number, but it pulls, what it does is it pulls from this long list of data and it pulls the fact that you're looking for right to the top of the table. So that's the only thing that it really does if you want to highlight something, but you can just scroll down and see the type of data that you can get really quickly with this tool. So you can see the population estimates. We have a population estimates program. So the decennial census gives us population every 10 years. We have a population estimates program that takes that baseline and looks every year based on several factors: birth rates, death rates, in-migration, out-migration. So it makes a population adjustment estimate. So that's what some of these numbers are. But you can go down, you can see what the population was in for the 2020 census of these areas, and you can compare it to the 2010 census. We actually have other tools where you could compare back to, I think you can look all the way back to 1790. So we do have old archive data that you can have access to as well. You can see, you can compare age and sex. So how many people are under 5, under 18, 65 and older. So that's just some quick data that you can pull. Race and Hispanic origin, population characteristics, housing. So you get into the housing units, the values. The values, you know, I've looked at the values and they're pretty good. I mean, as we all know, values have gone through the roof. They do adjust. So I think they're pretty in line from just my experience in my own state. Median selected owner costs, median gross rent, building permits. So sometimes you'll see an X. That means for the Newport City, the building permits data isn't in this tool. We do have that data, but it's not in this tool. It's only at the county level in this tool. So sometimes if you're looking at any of these tools and you can't find something, it doesn't necessarily mean we don't have it. It may be in another tool. There might be another way to access it. So again, I would encourage you always to just reach out and I can help you with that. But you can just see the type of information from basically putting in 4 or 5 communities. You may just want to pull this for your own community, but it will allow you to start comparing. It's got business data, geography. So, here's the population per square mile. If you ever needed that for anything, it's in this tool. So that is quick facts. It's pretty straightforward. It tells you here for populations of 5,000 or more. Real easy to use. So I'm gonna, let's see, close that out and go back to the slide. So that was quick facts. And then here is my all-time favorite tool. I always tell people if you're gonna work on learning one data access tool from the Census Bureau, you get into data.census.gov, and we have a lot of different webinars, live and recorded. We have classes, and then you have me. I'm always happy to do a virtual presentation for your specific town, with just you or with other people who work at the town to really dissect the town for all of the characteristics that we can pull with many different tools depending on what your interest is. So definitely reach out. The data in this tool, it comes from these sources. So again, you have the American Community Survey. You also have some decennial, public sector. There's public sector data in this tool as well. Economic surveys. So you can see that the data comes from different areas. What I love about the platform is that you can access the data in a table format. You can turn the data into a chart. You can map the data like I showed you on the screen. So it really gives you not only downloadable tables, it gives you a visualization of what your community looks like for different data points. You can produce data analysis at those different geography levels. So you can I'll show you the geography levels. There are a lot of them. You can go by zip code, census tract, block, school district. So it brings in school district geographies as well. You can create reports. And like I said, you can directly download. So let me go to this table. This tool, I'm sorry, not table. There are many tables in this tool. His feet are still showing on my screen. I don't know why, but okay. I never saw that happen before. Okay, this is the landing page of data.census.gov. You can get to it from our main website, but you can also take this presentation and follow the link, or you can just type in data.census.gov in your browser, and it will bring you directly to the landing page of the table. So there's two different ways that you can search. You can search through our general search. You can explore filters, which is where I go. It's kind of like online shopping. If you just, in the general search, if you just put in shirts, you're going to get all kinds of results. But if you say women's shirts, size 10, green, you're just putting filters in. So you're narrowing your search down. And that's how our Explore filters works. I'm going to, just to start, to show you the one time where I think it's very beneficial to use our general search is if you want to pull up your community profile. So this is a really quick and easy way to pull up information on your municipality. So I'm going to type in I'll put in Cranston. When you start typing, it brings up Cranston, Rhode Island. So that's the one I want. This would be the same, Cranston City. It's just telling you that it's in Providence County. But it looks like Cranston has 2 zip codes. You could actually, if you wanted to pull data just for either of those zip codes, you could. But for this example, I'm just going to take the city as a whole, and you click on it. And here it brought up, still waiting over here. Usually it brings up a map. There it is. Okay. So it quickly shows you where Cranston is in Rhode Island. It tells you that from the 2020 decennial census, there were 82,934 people, the population of Cranston. And then it shows you right here, you can see 3,316 data sets. So those are data tables. And as I scroll down, you can see there's one here from the decennial census race. So that would give you race details for Cranston. You have one of those data profile tables that I mentioned that are the Walmart of tables, which have a lot of data for a quick pull up of the table. Um, and then it shows you all of these other tables, and there's over 3,000 of them. So that's why I said, if you filter down, you get less. But I do recommend, if you're looking for certain types of data, if you find a table, say you find this table SO103, and it has everything that you want. I always say bookmark it, save the URL link, and then when you go back to it, as the 2025 American Community Survey comes out, you can just change the data set. So you'll always have that table. Sometimes it takes a while to find the perfect table. And when you do, don't lose the number. Just a little recommendation from me. So we pulled this up, 3,300 data sets. We don't want to scroll through them. But if we want to get a quick profile on our city of Cranston, you can come over here to the right and you can click on View Profile. So when I do that, it pulls up Cranston, Rhode Island, and then it gives you, I think I already did it. So I'm going to see. Okay. Only because the loading speed is slow, I'm switching over to, I had pulled it up before. So we can go down through it without waiting for the spinning of the internet to pull up my data. At the top, it provides quick statistics similar to what was in Quick Facts, but it also has clickable links to the table where that data comes from. So if you really wanted to look at, housing, more detail on housing, you could go to the B25002 table. It'll bring you directly into the table that way. So this is kind of it's almost a filtering way if you're specifically looking at your municipality and you want to pull different tables based on one of these categories. It's a good way to get in directly to the table without doing a filtered search. You can also scroll down and it shows you more information. So as I'm scrolling down, we're going across from population and people to income and poverty to education. You can click on any of these links, and again, it will bring you to the bottom of where I'm scrolling. So, if you wanted to go to race and ethnicity, you could click on that link. It would bring you right to the bottom of the table, of the page here, where it would have that data. But I want to show you the population pyramids are kind of a fun visualization of population in Cranston. And you can get this for any city. So I know one city in Maine, their population pyramid was really an interesting shape because they had a lot of older people over 65 and then less. So it was kind of like a funnel shape. And they shared that on their website. So it's just it's a good way to look at the data. It breaks it up into 5-year increments and males and females. So you can see this 30 to 34 age group and 60 to 64. Looks like larger age groups for Cranston. And then as you scroll down, you can see language spoken at home, native and foreign born, and it compares. So it's comparing foreign born population in Cranston with foreign born population in Rhode Island. So you can quickly see if your town or your city is, above the state average in an area or lower than the state average in an area. It provides that. And again, it provides a link to the table. So this information came from DPO2. Now, instead of scrolling down through all of these, I'm going to just click on DPO2 to show you how it goes to the table. And we're still in data.census.gov. So this is all in this wonderful tool called data.census.gov. Remember how when I pulled up the profile, there were 3,316 results? By scrolling down in that profile, we saw this DPO2 table, which we clicked on, and it brought you right to that, which is one of 3,316 tables. So it's like I said, it's kind of a way to filter without using the filter section. So you can see this is our social characteristics table. Um, you can see that the margin of error is here. You can either choose to look at that. Depends. Sometimes people find they don't want to have that on their table because it's cleaner if they see the estimate and the percent. So you can click on that and it will take it off. So you just see the estimate and the percent. But you can always, if you want to see it, you can. If you're doing something that matters, that where the margin of error might be large, you may want to take note of that. And you may not want to use that data point if the margin of error is too large, but we do give it to you so you can decide. You can see the type of information in this table, household type, relationship. So it gets into children in the house, married, widowed, divorced, um, fertility rates, grandparents responsible for grandchildren. Okay, if there's an N, that means that the survey sample wasn't large enough, so we don't have that for that data point for this characteristic. And if that happens, what I would recommend is maybe pop it up to the county level and then it may show up. You can see school enrollment, you can get school numbers by population, you can get educational attainment, veteran status, disability status. So persons with a disability, yeah, under 18, without, over 65 with a disability. Um, if they lived in the same house, or if they moved here from the same county or a different county or a different state or from abroad, we have all that information. Place of birth, were they born in Rhode Island or did they move here from a different state? Are they a citizen? Year of entry. So you can see world region of birth. Let's see, we don't have a lot of data there at this level. Language spoken at home, mostly English. Speaks less than well, 10%. We do have other tables that can probably get this information that would be more specific. Ancestry, you get into ancestry. So you can see this is one of those data tables, just one, that has all of this information in a quick couple of clicks. Internet use with a computer with broadband. So most 93%, 94%. So if any of that information is important to you, you can get it quite easily that way. You can also there's notes. So if you click on the notes, you can see it tells you a little bit about where the data came from. It came from the American Community Survey 2024. This is the 1 year estimates. The other thing too is when the sample size isn't large enough in some instances, like we saw on the table, sometimes you can maybe change to the 5 year estimates and you may be able to pull up data for that characteristic. So that's just something to keep in mind. If you want to change the data, you can see right here, it says 2024 ACS. You could click it and you could look at the 2024 5 year. You could go back to 2020 and see what it looked like. So you can change your data set all the way back to 2010 in this tool. So if you wanted to look at your town, how it's changing. The other thing, we have comparison profile tables, so which are really interesting for towns. These data profile tables, the 4 of them that had the characteristics on the chart, they also have comparison profiles, which are numbered the same way. So they'd be CPO2, CPO3, CPO4, CPO5. And what those do is they will take and compare um, different years. So you could take Cranston and you could get a comparison all the way back to 2020, and it would show they put a little asterisk on statistically significant changes in data. So say you wanted to look at we'll just use children under 5 again. Is that population growing in Cranston? Is it not growing in Cranston? It helps you with that planning and with trends, what's happening. That would be, again, we don't have time to demonstrate all this, but I'm just letting you know that it exists. So if you wanted to do a deeper dive for your community, I'm happy to do that. Now, if you want to download, you can click on this. You could download right to an Excel. I'll show you what it looks like. So the first page it doesn't it when it comes in it doesn't look wonderful, but it basically just tells you information on what is there. I excluded, it says excluded columns the margin of error. If you wanted the margin of error in your Excel, you would need to leave it on in the table, so that would tell you if you've excluded any or not. If you want the data, you just go over to the data tab, and it just brought back, it took that whole table and it provided in Excel all of the data that was in the table that was available. So if you're working with Excel and you want to, do some adding of different census tracts or whatever you want to do with it, you can download it into Excel. Let me close that out. Close that out. You can also cite it. So for grant writers out there, if you're doing a report, you click on that. That's kind of a new feature, which is pretty neat. You can share it. So you can copy it. If you find something like the population pyramid, you want to share it on your town's website. You could share it if you have a Facebook, Instagram, any of that. You could just copy it and send the link out if you wanted to do that as well. Um, you can, what else is good up here? I'm going to get into some of these in another demo. All right, so let me go back because I want to go to the filters section. So to get back, so if you're in a table and you want to go and start fresh in data.census.gov, you go right here. It's a new way to get back to the main landing page. You click on data.census.gov, and here we are back at the landing page of data.census.gov. So what I just showed you, we pretty much found just from typing in Cranston in this general search. But if you want to get more specific and you want to start comparing and mapping geographies, you want to go into the exploring filters. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in, you can, let's see, let's go to census tracts because I had a slide where I want to show you. You can see to the left here, these are your filters. So you can filter geography. So you always want to put in the geography level that you're looking at. Remember I said there were a lot of geographies. These are the more popular ones people use, but you can also click on all geographies and you can see, you can pull data by all of these different geographies. Now, some may apply to your city or town, some may not, but it's certainly a way to look at to pull different data. And I know a lot of times schools will pull by school district. That's helpful for them as well. But you can see we have tribal, we have all different kinds of ways that you can pull it. I am going to choose census tract. You always start with your smallest geography. So sometimes people will say, okay, I want to be Rhode Island. I want to, go to census tracts. Well, you got to start with your smallest geography. So I'm going to choose census tracts, and then I am going to go to Rhode Island. It will ask you what city or town you want, or where do you want it? What state do you want it? Rhode Island. So then it's asking me, do I want all the tracts in Rhode Island? And you may not. You may just want it for your county. So you could click on Providence County and it would give you like all of the census tracts in Providence County. Or you could go to the top here. It says within other geographies. So if you're within other geographies, you could do voting district, or you could say county subdivision. So now it's giving you information for county subdivisions within Providence County. So that is, let's go to Providence City, Providence City, Providence City, Providence County, Rhode Island. And we want all census tracts. So I would have to check all of these census tracts. So I'm glad I did that to show you. That sounds like a pain. There's an easier way. So I'm going to go start over. I'm going to start with census tract. I'm going to go to Rhode Island. And this is kind of a quirky feature within this. And this is why, you may get stuck, but reach out. So this is where I was. Census, I went to Providence County. Instead of going to the county and then going to the city or town, if you go, this is where you want to use place. So within other geographies, I can click on place. And this gives me every city and town in Rhode Island. I can go down to Providence and you'll see, instead of clicking every single census tract, it has a spot where I can click all census tracts, fully or partially within Providence City. Much easier. It takes them all. And that is, we're trying to get, I've asked to have that fixed because sometimes you're checking off a lot of census tracts. So we put that. You can see when I clicked the census tracts, it went in kind of our filter basket, all census tracts, fully or partially. The reason it says fully or partially is because census tracts sometimes will cross, a part of them will cross over a town boundary. So that's why they don't nest within a town, they nest within a county. So, but for the most part, this will show you all of the census tracts, fully or partially in Providence City. Then we can go down here. You can filter by topic. So if you just wanted to look at, government, families and living arrangement, housing, populations and people, you can click any of these, and then it brings you to more filtering. So if you just wanted to look at older population, you could do that. If you want to look at ancestry, if it has a little arrow after it, it means it has more of a drop down. So I mean, you could look at ancestry. It gets pretty detailed. And some of this, there may not be. You may not have enough data for a specific geography, but certainly for your state, you could probably narrow it down. You can also filter by survey. So if you want to say, I just want to use American Community Survey, and I'm going to do this for simplicity. I'm going to click American Community Survey. 5-year estimates. It automatically gave me the 5-year estimates, and I'm going to hit data profiles. Those are those DP tables. There are 4 of them. They're the Walmart of tables. They're the good ones that have a lot of data to find pretty quickly. So once I did that, and then if I want to, I could click on the year. Maybe you wanted to go back to 2010. You can also put in industry codes. So if you're looking for industry information, we have different codes down here. Those are the filtering options. I'm not going to, well, I'm not going to check the year. I'm going to leave it because if I check the year, it's only going to allow me to look at 2024. But once I'm in the table, I may want to go back and see what the data looked like in 2020 or 2018. So I'm going to leave that unchecked to give myself more flexibility. So once you get your filters in your basket, you go over to the right and you click search. And because there are only 4 data profile tables, it only brought up 4. So those are the 4 that we have. Let's look at the top one, demographic and housing estimates. So you click on the result that you want, and it brought the table up over here to the right. To be able to see a little more of your table, you can close these little chevrons of your filter basket and your results. They hide over here. So if you want to change your chart, you can click on results again. It brings it back, gives you the option to switch from table to table, or you can leave it closed off. And take off my margin of error so you can see the estimate and the percent. And you can look at the detail you can bring up for census tract. So we're at the census tract level in Rhode Island, in Providence City. So here we are. You can get all of this type of data. You can download it, but I am going to map it because mapping is one of my favorite things in this tool. Across here, you can get a chart. So you could get, if I click on the chart, it will show you in chart form all of the census tracts. So it starts to show which ones are more populated. But I'm going to go to the map. All right, so here we have Providence City by census tracts. So we took that table and we took the data in all of those rows, and we're mapping it to show a visualization of the data. One of the things that it does, you can see it says male here. When I click the chevron down in this big box at the top, it shows me the whole list of everything that was on that table. So you can map any of those characteristics on that table. You can put it in a visual mapping format. You can also change it from percent to number. So if we want to go, it depends. You may want to know the highest percent. You may want to know the highest number. For outreach, I know people usually like to look at number because it gives them more volume of a characteristic for that census tract. So maybe we want to look at 85 years and older. Where are the 85 years and older individuals living in Providence, Rhode Island? So you can click on that, and you can see here it pulls up a visual of that. So you can see this tract right here looks like 358. Census tract 9 has the most individuals 85 years and older living in it. So you may say, you can scroll in further. You can say, okay, census tract 9. Hard to see, hard to know where that is. But in the map, when you're doing the visualization of the data, you can add a base map in. So it starts to show you, and you can keep scrolling in. And as you scroll in, it starts to show you where you are. So this has been extremely helpful for people if they're doing outreach. Like I had mentioned, working with veterans folks, they could actually send outreach people. They could look at the street names and know, okay, that census tract has the most volume in it of the characteristic that I'm looking for. So that's how to map on this. I want to go back to my presentation because I want to, and like I said, I could spend hours and hours in this tool with you all. But, it would be nice to be able to pull it up for your specific town and really do some analysis. And I don't expect you at all to become experts in any of these tools, maybe quick facts, but data.census.gov, I'm more than happy to show you more. So let's go back to our presentation because I want to do one more. I want to show you one more tool that I think is really good. And if you have your phones on you, you can use your phone to get this. This is very phone friendly. So you can see there's a QR code here. If you can scan that QR code and bring this tool up on your phone. While you do that, I'm going to click on the link because I'll bring it up on my screen. That should give you plenty of time to bring it up on your phone if you are. So this is narrative profiles. And this allows you to get similar data, like the data that we just found. It allows you to get it in a narrative form. So again, you can say, I want to look at a county subdivision or a place or a census tract. You can do that. Or you can use the address lookup, which I find is a lot of fun because you may not know what census tract you live in or where your office is. But if you type in your address, I'm going to type in 1 State Street, Providence, because that is where that's where I got the league's address from online. And the match found. So the Rhode Island League of Cities and Towns, it's located at this address. It's in census tract number 31. It's in zip code 02908. It's in Providence City. So it gives you all these different levels of data. But say you wanted to, quickly, finding quick data, you wanted to know, okay, census tract 31. Tell me a little bit about the census tract that address is in. This works well for, I know real estate agents use this a lot to be able to put in an address of a housing unit they're looking to market. It pulls up some quick information on at the census tract level. So you can see this is good for grant writing as well. It provides some of that data that we just looked up in table and map form. It pulls it up in narrative and it gives you charts. So you can you can click here and go right to the table again. We have a lot of clickable links that bring you back to the data source in the table. But it just shows you a little bit. You can go down marital status, grandparents, nativity and foreign born. So I hope you were able to follow along. It gives you, again, there's a link back to the DPO2 table, which brings that social characteristic in. So that is, I think I have 2 minutes left. Um, so we don't have a lot of time for questions. I don't know if any came up, but that is the presentation. And I hope y'all reach out. Or does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, if you do, please, you can just take yourself off of mute. I
I
think
hope
we're
you.
overwhelmed with the coolness of this tool.
Well, and you know something, it's always hard. We have so much. We have over 50 tools. I showed you three,
Yeah.
but I showed you three of the really good ones. And the takeaway from this is that the data is there. You can get it customized down to multiple geography levels, and we're available to help. So reach out if you're doing a community analysis, or if you're doing a planning session for roads, whatever. Reach out. I'm happy to help in any way that I can, and we do have so much more. It's impossible to show you everything that we have probably in a week's time, much less an hour. So
Oh, this was really great. I can see so many good uses for this information. Um, and it's free, even better. So
I forgot to mention that it's all free. Yes, my time is free to you.
yeah.
So
So well, thank you so much, Nicole. I'm sure we will have maybe have you back on with a smaller group or a more directed group of planners or someone, um, and see what we can do for grant writing, that kind of thing. This was really, really fabulous.
yeah, okay. I'm happy to come back anytime. Just reach out.
Wonderful. Colin, did you have something?
No, no, I was just going to say thank you. This was I've never really played with the website before. You hear people talk about census tracts and other kinds of census data before, but this is the first time. If you saw my head moving while you were demonstrating, I was trying some things in my own city. I'm like, oh, look at that.
Oh
So
no, that's great. I mean, I'm glad I sparked the interest, because you can really get a lot of data. I started this job. I like the marketing and the outreach, but I really like the data now. It's
Yeah,
fun. You can do a lot of things in our tools. And
yeah,
on the map is a pretty neat feature, Colin. If you go into on the map, that's a fun one as well. So, and
absolutely,
I'm
thank you
more
very
than
much.
happy to demo. All right. Thank you,
beautiful.
Jen. Thanks for having
Thank
me. I appreciate
you.
it. And we'll see y'all. Have a good day. Spring, I think, is here for a couple days anyway. Let's enjoy it.
Fingers crossed. All right. Thanks everybody for being here. We'll see you next week.
Bye
Take care.
bye.